Now, we've already talked about women who buy designer handbags are stupid. And we've talked about, is it okay to wear designer handbags in the workplace? But today, we're going to be talking about another topic and how no matter what size you are, handbags work. And that's why we love them so much, because they don't discriminate. Now, if you're anything like me, you've had weight fluctuations in your life. Sometimes you might be carrying a bit more weight, looking a little bit chubby in the mirror, being a little bit more heavy set than you would prefer. And then at other times, you could be feeling trim, you could be feeling light, and you could be really happy with what you see in the mirror. Or maybe sometimes you're just feeling down and mentally crap. You're just not motivated to get dressed, brush your hair, or put on makeup. And I mean this irrespective of whatever weight you are. Or maybe other times you're feeling energetic and a go-getter, and you're ready to style yourself and well groom yourself and put on makeup and go out for the day. Now, in either of those scenarios, whether you're feeling chubbier or skinnier, or you're feeling down or you're feeling happy, no matter what, you can always throw on a cute bag and be ready to face the day. Now, while this video isn't actually focused on weight, it doesn't matter if you're fat or skinny, or if you feel fat or if you feel skinny. What this video is about is how the handbags make us feel. And that's why we love them so much. Now, this video is actually inspired by a post that I saw on Reddit in our handbags, which I'll link down below, and it's entitled, "Why Do You Love Handbags?" So you know the drill. I'm going to read the post out to you, then we're going to break it down and discuss the points, and we're also going to be going through the comment section. So I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's get started. Why do you enjoy them? Do you collect? What about them draws them to you? For me, I have a chronic illness which does not allow me to express myself in my clothing style anymore. I used to wear alt, Harajuku, farmish, cottagecore, modern, and Y2K in a big mix. Now I express myself through handbags. I have no basic bags besides a Uniqlo bag that I use for doctor's appointments. My most recent bag is a Vivienne Westwood bag that's hot pink with orange flowers. I think bags are a fantastic way to express yourself without needing to change your clothing. Okay, so the Redditor opens their post with 3 questions. Why do you enjoy them? Do you collect? What about them draws them to you? So I'm going to answer them first, and I also want you to answer in the comment section. So question number 1, why do you enjoy them? So for me, I've always loved fashion. Now, when I was younger, I mostly focused on clothing and shoes. Not so much handbags, like I was into handbags, but I didn't zone in on them as much as I do now as an adult. So as a child and as a teenager, I did used to get excited to get a new school bag every year. And most of the bags that I used to buy were from a retail chain in Australia called Strand Bags. And these are just very like more priced bags, very ordinarily priced bags. Strand Bags do carry some more expensive bags, not designer, but more expensive. But you know, I wasn't buying those. I was buying just the very regular price bags. Or my parents were buying the very regular price bags at that time. Then when I got to university, I got my first expensive bag, which was a Guess bag. And at that time, I had also started thrifting some vintage bags. So here in Australia, we call it op shopping. So you could kind of say that Guess bag was my first gateway into expensive handbags. Now that Guess bag, look, I wore it to death. That was my only expensive bag, and I had it for years and years and years. And I ended up selling it as a pre-loved bag on eBay, I think anyway. But yeah, there was just that one. Now, as many young girls do, I had a lot of insecurities about my physical appearance. So as a child and teenager, I was a bit of a chubster, a bit heavier set. And as a teenager, I also suffered with acne on my face, my chest, and my back as well. So I had a lot of moments in my life at that time when I just was looking in the mirror and just wasn't that chuffed with what I was seeing in the reflection. And to top it all off, the average weight of the girls I went to high school with was like under 45 kilos. So I was going to school with a lot of stick thin girls. I mean like stick thin. And they were, you know, that was what the popular trend was at that time for the weight, was to be, you know, under 45 kilos. And that just wasn't me. The fact that no matter what weight you are, whether you have acne or don't have acne, a bag can brighten your day. And that's what my school bag did for me. I had this bright pink pack, and that just lit up my morning every morning when I put my bag on. And I also love how you can make a bag either the main attraction or you can make it your sidekick. It's just up to you, however you feel that day. If you want it to take a back seat, it's taking a back seat. If you want it to be front and center, it's going to be front and center. It's up to you. You're in control. I said question number 2, do you collect? Yeah, so you guys know I am an avid collector of vintage Louis Vuitton, as you can see. But I also do collect other brands like vintage Chanel, vintage Hermes, if my budget permits. Question number 3, what about them draws them to you? I love the fact that it's a form of practical self-expression. See, the bag has a utility purpose. Its job is to carry your items for you. But at the same time, it's serving a purpose as to be a beautiful thing that's hanging off you. So you've got aesthetic and function all at the same time. And it's just so much easier to keep a bag on daily repeat like a uniform than it would be to keep like an outfit as a uniform. And we're not all Steve Jobs where we're going to be wearing the same turtleneck and jeans all the time. Now, in addition to the dual purpose of being utility and aesthetic, I love the history of designer brands. Like for me, I'm a vintage LV girl and I love their old school trunks. Like I hope to collect them one day. It just reminds me of a time that was before my time when things were very different. Like for example, and I know I wasn't alive at that time, but you just think of that scene in the Titanic where Rose is boarding the ship. Like that was a time that I think of when I think of vintage LV trunks. Now, there was a time when my mother and I went to go stay at her friend's house interstate, and there we were having noodles and they brought out their pepper grinder. Like it was one of those old school pepper grinders where you had to do this. Now, it was actually a coffee grinder, but they were using it for pepper. And my mum's face lit up when she saw it because she said back when she was a child back in Laos, that's what they used to use. That was like a normal thing. And it just made her remember how much she loved the smell of freshly ground pepper. And I could see her face was all lit up, and it was the nostalgia that when I came back, I quickly went to go find her like a genuine vintage one that I bought from Germany on eBay. And I wanted a genuine vintage one. And I love the fact it was from Germany because I'm like, German engineering, it's gonna last. Like I didn't want to spend all this money and buy an antique one and have it break. Like I wanted to keep going. She's still got it now. It's been years since then. But it was just that nostalgia just really lit up her face. And I just couldn't help but buy that for her. So there's behind things, there's a story, and I love that. And my vintage bags, some of them have been alive longer than me, and they also carry their own story. They've had many owners before me. They've traveled many places before me, and I just love the history behind it. For me, I have a chronic illness which does not allow me to express myself in my clothing style anymore. I used to wear alt, Harajuku, farmish, cottagecore, modern, and Y2K in a big mix. Now I express myself through handbags. Now this part of the post really resonated with me. Now I haven't talked about this on this channel before, but about 10 years ago, I was also chronically ill for over a year. And that was a really difficult and dark time in my life, especially since it was a time when I was supposed to be in my prime. All the people around me who were the same age, they were doing great. They were doing great in their careers and great in their health. And then there I was, and I had a sudden shift because I actually went from being the fittest and strongest and trimmest I'd ever been in my life. I was doing really well with being super disciplined with my eating and my exercising. And then things just fell off a cliff very quickly and my health declined very quickly. And it was at a time when first time in my life when I realized things in life can change very suddenly and very drastically, and change is not something that I cope with very well, and that's probably why it was a really dark time. And as my health declined, I started gaining weight. I was essentially feeling like shit and I was looking like shit. If you've ever had your health decline, you would know that your mental happiness goes down with it. So it's not just a physical decline, but you have a mental health decline that accompanies the physical decline. And I'm not saying that I felt like shit because, oh, you know, I was gaining weight. The weight gain was just a byproduct of the health decline. It was the health decline itself, because previous to that, you know, you don't know that you take your health for granted until you lose it. And how would you know you're taking something for granted if you don't know anything else? How can you be cognizant of something that's outside of your awareness? But once I realized my health was declining, I just was very bleak about the future. I just did not know what type of future I was facing. And things just went downhill mentally for me as well. And it made things very dark at that time. So there I was, unwell, gained weight. Now, The Redditor's post said that their usual style was old, Harajuku, cottagecore, farmish, Y2K. Now for me, I like to have some sort of sexiness in the way I dress. I like to have something tight. It didn't have to be tight top and bottom, but usually one of them was tight. And with my weight gain, I just was not feeling my clothes anymore. They were not fitting good, I was not looking good, and I ended up going out and buying more looser fitting clothing during that time in my life. And I just was not super happy with what I was seeing in the mirror. Just things weren't fitting good. I wasn't looking good. It was just bow bow. So that's why I can definitely empathize with the Redditor when they say they've turned to handbags as their form of self-expression because their clothing style was no longer serving them. Because that's how I felt. I felt like my usual clothing style was no longer serving me. Now at that time, I didn't know about vintage designer handbags yet. So I couldn't turn to vintage designer handbags, which is my love now. But that would have been a fantastic choice if at that time I had turned to handbags to kind of just help lift my spirits and help face the day at that time. Because unlike clothes and shoes, doesn't matter what size you are, handbags work. So tell me in the comments section, have you ever dealt with either a serious or chronic illness before? And at that time, were you feeling like you just weren't happy with what you're seeing in the mirror? You're feeling down, you're not feeling great. Did you turn to handbags? Let me know your experience in the comment section. I have no basic bags besides a Uniqlo bag I use for doctor's appointments. My most recent bag was a Vivienne Westwood that's hot pink with orange flowers. I think bags are a fantastic way to express yourself without needing to change your clothing. Okay, so if you guys have watched my entire handbag collection video, you guys will know these are my basic totes. So this is a white Michael Kors tote that I got at Ross in Honolulu. Shout out to the Ross stores. I have a blast shopping in them every time I'm in the US. We don't have them in Australia. And this is my 9 West tote bag. And you would know that these serve a specific purpose of when I'm having a night out and going on public transport and want to use something that's discreet and it can fit a ton of things. I've had this bag since 2012 and it's still going strong. So yeah, Michael Kors, not bad on the quality. I just realized 2012 was 12 years ago. Wow, that's a long time ago. And for crossbodies, I have my basic Coach Cassie in the navy with gold hardware. And if you guys watch my channel, you know I've been talking about these bags a ton lately. These are my dupes for the Rimowa personal amenity case from First Class, or it can be a type of dupe for the Rimowa Dior crossbody bag as well, but it's closer to the amenity bag from First Class Travel. Now this unfortunately does not get out very much at all. I haven't used her for over a year, but I have no plans of getting rid of her from my collection. I think this is a really good basic staple to have in the collection. And it'll be really suitable if you have like any professional events you need to go to. These, I'm just in love with them. They're so good for dog walking and so light. And I love them because they look like mini suitcases. Like how cool is that? I don't know, maybe they're not basic bags because they're so different. Like if you look at this, you're like, oh, it doesn't look like a bag, it's a mini suitcase. Maybe I've miscategorized these. Maybe they're not basic bags. Tell me in the comment section. Am I confused? Would you categorize these as basic bags or not? Let me know what you think. So tell me in the comments, are you more of a basic bag person or you're more flamboyant bag person? For me, other than the Rimowa dupes, my other basic bags really don't get any love except for their specific purposes. So I think I'm just not a basic bag kind of girl. Definitely an LV monogram girl though. Okay, so enough about me. We're going to go through the comment section. I love going through the comment section of things. I love hearing from other real people out there. Tell me, are you like me and do you love reading comment sections? My weight has fluctuated quite a bit in the past 3 years. I was at my heaviest about 3 years ago due to the effects of medication. Then I was pregnant. I gained even more weight during my pregnancy. But then post-pregnancy, I lost 84 pounds. Now I'm pregnant again and the weight is creeping back up. I like fashion and I like to look nice, but with the weight fluctuations, clothing is a hit or miss, but I can always make bags work regardless of my size. And then someone replied to them and said, this is the answer. Handbags don't judge. I love that. Totally agree. Handbags don't judge. Now, with the first comment, I've never been pregnant myself, but I hope to be pregnant in the future. So I can definitely empathize and envision that with all those bodily changes during the pregnancy process, and then further bodily changes after birth and in the postpartum journey, that clothing is just going to be something that is not going to be very stable at that time in her life. So I can definitely empathize turning to handbags to be the stability of the outfits during that crazy time. Now, mums, tell me in the comment section, when you were pregnant or during your postpartum journey, did you turn more so towards handbags because the bodily changes were just so difficult to keep up with? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section, especially because I do hope to be pregnant in the future. Yep, that is it. I've always been plus size. I was in high school during the era of Paris and Nicole and Lindsay and could never fit into the clothing the rest of the girls at school would wear. Trendy and could make me feel in instead of frumpy was accessories, shoes, bags, sunglasses, all day, every day. Okay, I was also in high school during the time of Paris, Nicole, and Lindsay, and I've already told you guys that most girls were under 45 kilos at my school. So during that time when there was a lot of midriff fashion and I'm going to school with stick thin girls, that fashion was just not working for me. I just didn't have the figure, or what was considered the figure for it at that time. And, you know, I'm a teenager, very impressionable, very insecure at that time. I'm not going to go, yeah, I've got the confidence to wear whatever I want. You know, it wasn't reality at that time. At the time, I'm like, oh, these girls are so skinny. And yes, it was my school bag that lightened up my day every morning, my pink school bag. So I did turn to bags at that time. I am temporarily living somewhere where there is no good shopping, and it's a nuisance to shop online for clothes and shoes. Now with handbags, if I check the dimensions carefully and read the reviews, shopping online works, and I'm heavily influenced by the idea that you can wear a gorgeous bag with whatever you want. I love the fact that this person is taking the time and care to check the measurements and read the reviews. Now, it can be a bit harder for most people with clothes to check the measurements because not everyone is used to checking clothing measurements. But with a bag, you can measure the items you need to put in there, like your laptop or your notebook or whatever, to make sure it's definitely going to fit. And I love the fact that they're taking the time and care to really think long and hard to make sure that bag's going to work, especially if it's a more expensive bag like a designer bag, because an impulse purchase on an expensive item can very quickly turn into an expensive mistake. And yes, I totally agree with them. When you say you can wear a gorgeous handbag with anything, and I do. I wear it with home clothes, athletic wear, work wear, casual wear, going out wear. I could be going to the supermarket in my pajamas and I'm going to throw on a Louis. That's just how I roll. A handbag hasn't ever called me fat, though essays have implied it with negative connotations, like I'm supposed to cry over it. I love handbags because I can use them to hold my things, my medicines, my sunscreen, my sunglasses, my lip gloss, my wallet, my keys. But they're beautiful too. They can be practical. They can be sexy, cool, adventurous, crazy, and so much more, and add something to me which I have but I don't necessarily show. And it's also just plain fun. I have grown up with a grandma who loves handbags, and it's just like a religion, and I've joined her. I think it's really sad that the sales associates were making negative connotations about this person's wear. Like, I would hate to go into a luxury store and then have my luxury in-store experience ruined by some negative connotations from the sales associates. Like, that's not what you're going in for. You're going in to talk about a bag, to buy a bag, and have a bag sold to you, not to have your weight dissed. But I totally agree with their comment about how a bag can just totally change your outfit. Like, I might want to be ladylike and dainty. I might want to be sexy and cool. I might want to ooze femme fatale. A bag can totally change the aura of your outfit depending on whatever it is you want it to be. There is a bag for every occasion and a bag for every look. Similar to you, I'm a wheelchair user and struggle to express myself with fashion that looks good seated, so bags are my way of doing that. Now, this post made me realize I hadn't considered wheelchair users, because for them, self-expression in the form of fashion is going to be so much more difficult from people who are not using a wheelchair. So I can definitely empathize as to why they've turned to handbags as their form of fashion self-expression. Now, I have a male relative who is a wheelchair user, and they have a female carer. Now, while the female carer is not a wheelchair user, their arms and hands are occupied most of the time pushing the wheelchair, meaning they're not hanging onto the bags themselves, but rather hanging the bag off the wheelchair. So that's something I didn't consider. Both wheelchair users and their carers, who are basically spending most of their time caring for the person, is they can both indulge in handbags as their form of self-expression. This comment section made me realize so much that so many people from different walks of life, we are all choosing the same type of form of self-expression, handbags. Handbags really don't discriminate. I mean, some brands might by icing us out with their price increases, but that's not the bag's fault, that's the brand's fault. So tell me in the comment section, do your handbags make you feel special no matter what? If you're up or down or heavy set or skinny, they don't discriminate. They can work for everyone. Now, if you haven't already seen my spring handbag collection video, I'm going to leave it here for you to carry on with next.